Hi everyone, and welcome for joining for our webinar Wednesday today. This is from Hawkridge Systems. My name is Scott Woods, and today we're going to be going over Composer and Visualize. And it's basically using the two tools to sell your products faster by creating better marketing content. So this is one of those go-to meetings, go-to webinars that it is closed for talking back and forth, but you guys can type in any questions you want in the GoToMeeting during the presentation. At the end, I will open it up for any questions and answers, and so I'll try to answer any questions that I might see pop in on the way, but most of those I'll probably wait till the very end and then just have a little Q&A session at the end. So that's over in the GoToMeeting panel. It's a little area where you can go ahead and click in there for chat, type something in, and we'll just get to that at the end, unless I see it on the way. Okay, so yeah, let's again, my name is Scott Woods. I'm the product manager for our TechCom products. That's Composer, Visualize, model-based definitions, and also inspection. So those are the other products in the bucket here. But today it's going to be all about rendering and creating marketing content. That's some of the fun stuff. So this is going to be pretty fun presentation here. We got to really play with some of the more advanced tools in these two softwares. Okay, so you might have seen this slide before, and basically just wanted to show it here just to kind of get a feel for anybody who isn't already aware of what Composer and Visualize is, what the two products are. And so Composer is mainly for creating like assembly manuals, any kind of technical communications documentation, such as assembly manuals, operation manuals, disassembly, maintenance, things like that. But it can also be used for many other things like marketing content. It creates images. It has 2D stuff. It has arrows and text and little detailed views and something called a digger tool we'll talk a little bit about today, which actually just kind of isolates an area and shows it in better detail. And so utilizing those tools, we can create some pretty robust marketing content. Also, the rendering out of Composer is super fast. It takes about a second per image, and so there's no long waiting. It's not a ray tracing rendering image, so we can push these images out super fast from that software. Now we go into Visualize. Visualize is designed for marketing. It is designed to create photorealistic renderings in a short amount of time, but each one of those renderings are not going to take a second to render out. This one right here is an 8-minute render. That was just on my laptop, took 8 minutes. We have a rendering server and literally can push this image out in like 30 seconds, but not everybody has a rendering server, so we want to stay more realistic to what it is on a standard workstation sort of timeline there. But yeah, and then Visualize, it can push out photorealistic images, video, VR content, and a lot of other really neat marketing stuff, which we'll talk about today. Most of those in the Pro feature. The standard feature does render photorealistic rendering of images. The Pro version does anything beyond that. Okay, I just couldn't help myself here with the robot, but basically what it is both of these products have their specific functions. However, together, you combine them together, and that's when we create that complete marketing TechCom package. Now, I will be honest, I do use Photoshop a lot, so if I have images or something I want to use in any of these presentations, not today, but actually creating marketing content. So images, I'll take into Photoshop, I'll touch up, I'll add the little Photoshop elements there, and then maybe bring that back into Composer and then push it out. So Composer, Visualize, and then some kind of video or image editing or both softwares, which just really help kind of complete the package. And then we have this unstoppable force of marketing content. So let me go ahead and switch over to Composer, and we'll show that first. And then I'll switch over to, I'm actually going to be going a little bit back and forth between these two programs today. I want to show a little bit of Composer, and we'll go into Visualize, and then we'll show some tools in Visualize, push out a rendering from there, and while that's rendering, I'll jump back in here and kind of set it up. So what the end goal today is to actually combine the two outputs. So I have this watch we're using as an example, and what I want to do is I want to have at the end here, I want to have a photorealistic looking image, but then a lot of the cool 2D stuff from Composer built into it that you would see in some kind of like a magazine. Like you go to I don't know, for me, like I kind of got this idea, went to the dentist and sat down, there's a magazine there, and I'm like, oh, we can create this content, you know? So kind of the idea behind this. So first off, this watch was designed in SOLIDWORKS, and all I've done is brought it into Composer. At this point, I haven't done anything else to it. I just brought it in, created a view, and it sits here. So now I just want to show how easy it is to navigate within this tool here. It brings all the coloring in from SOLIDWORKS, so depending on what color these parts are from SOLIDWORKS, that's the color it's going to come into Composer. Now we can come in here and we can say, hey, we want to select by color, and I can select that part, and that part is a specific color in SOLIDWORKS, so I can go ahead and group that selection here, and then I can go over and I can say, hey, go ahead and make a selection set, and we'll call this, I don't know, mid-band or something like that. And then at any time, you know, in the future, I can come over here in my selection sets, I can select that, and I select all those parts just like that. And I can say, hey, you know what, that's going to be green, or it's going to be, I don't know, gray or something like that. But looking at this, you'll see that this is very technical. This is not photorealistic. There are different rendering options in Composer, which I can switch to like a smooth, which, you know, looks a little bit better. There's a smooth technical, which is something like that. Really, I use it mostly for flat technical, because that's what the purpose is here. We have a model that's a technical drawing. It's flat technical. A lot of the more eye candy stuff we'll do over in Visualize. But there's a specific use for both depending on the situation. The situation I'm doing today, it doesn't really matter what I do in coloring in Composer, because we're going to be taking that from Visualize, which will make sense here in a little bit. But let me go ahead and let's say that middle band is, let's make it like a light blue. It doesn't look that good here, but you'll see once we get over to Visualize, it will make a big difference. And then I want to make this that same color, so I can select that part. I can click my little eyedrop tool, and then I can select that other part that I did color, and I can steal that color. Any of these parts here, you know, maybe they're a little dark, so you can set those to a chrome in Composer and kind of get this chrome look to it. But because this is technical, I'm just going to make it, let's make it more of like a plastic finish and then a lighter gray, something like that. Yep. And then that's about as far as I need to go as far as coloring here. And this is kind of that setup that I'm going to be working on while the Visualize rendering is being made. Before we jump to that, I want to show how easy it is just to pull this guy apart. So let's say we did want to do some kind of like step-by-step assembly instructions or something like that to this component. I could go over to my transform tab, and I could go ahead and say, you know what, I want to, you know, throw a grenade in the middle of this guy and just blow it out, something like that. You can see all the pieces, you know, or maybe something more like, actually let me show this tool. There is a select by instance, and I can click one of these guys, and that's going to select all the instance of that component, which is on the top and the bottom of the band. And then if I did a linear explode, I could go either direction. And let me go ahead and define an edge. Let's go ahead and say we want to divide that edge there. And we go like up, and then maybe we take one, we go down, something like that. Oop, yeah, something like more like that. So, oop, I didn't mean to click that. Okay, so we got, so we go ahead and basically exploded those guys out there. But we have like a transform tool here. I can just start grabbing. There's the face of the watch. Here's the arm, or you know, maybe grab the second face there and grabbing the arms. And maybe we took one out and we did this exploded view. We're like, you know what? I wanted this guy to go that same distance. I can copy, and then maybe do the same thing with the second hand. I can copy. Yeah, and then we can get really fancy. By the way, I'm just kind of winging it here just to show some of the cool tools here, and I'll jump into Visualize here in a second. But what I wanted to show is that once we have something like this, you know, we have like this exploded view, Composer is capable of pushing out animation. And so even something like this, we can say, hey, you know what, let's add some flair to this and say, oh, this, you know, the second hand, we're going to actually rotate it around. We can choose an axis here, maybe right in the center. and then I can go and key in, let's go and key in, I don't know, like, let's do 2000 degrees, something like that. And then when I rewind this, and we play it, you can see that second hand's actually spinning during that animation and away from the model. I don't know, it's just something that, you know, it's just one of those cool little tricks you can do if you want to output some kind of, you know, exploded view animation with the you see this in commercials, you know what I mean? You see like seen a Gillette razor commercial the other day, and the Gillette razor explodes and like the blades come out and they start flipping and stuff, and you know, so you can do those kind of fun things with Composer and more of a technical output. You can also do some similar things in Visualize and output that using Visualize Pro with the photorealism rendering. If you do that animation in SOLIDWORKS in the motion study, or the animator in SOLIDWORKS, that can be pushed also to Visualize Pro, and then that can be converted into a photorealistic animation. So some little tips there. Let's go back here and let's jump into Visualize. So this is now Visualize. So this is the rendering application to create the real high quality photorealism marketing content. And here, what we need to do is, you know, get our angle right. Just gotta take these tools and say, you know, I want to maybe turn it, and just real subtle changes, something like that. Most of the movement I do in Visualize, I don't do to the model. When I first import the model, I might move it a little bit, but really I like to move the scene around it. So we import the model, and then we can import an environment, rotate the environment, turn the cameras to different angles, use perspective on the cameras to really get a good feel for it. But you really don't need to rotate the model too much or move the model unless you're actually trying to animate the model, which in this case we're not doing. Over here on the right, we have the ability to bring in environments. And there's a world environment here where you can bring in anything that is part of this library. And let me make sure that, there we go. And so we have like this fall street, and this wash is sitting on the side of the road, something like that. But let's do this guy right here, and I'll show why. Right now when you look at it, it looks a little washed out. It doesn't look photorealistic. It's because I'm using this preview mode. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to Power Boost. Now this is part of Pro. It does the exact same thing this Diamond does, which is the accurate mode. If you have a super fast computer, right, you'd want to use Diamond mode, accurate mode, as you're working in it. But if you have a lesser computer, you want to do that preview mode just so you can work fast, and then at the end switch it to accurate to get a preview of what it is going to look like when you render it out. Now I'm connected using Visualize Pro to a rendering farm, and so it's really fast. So it's actually farming out what I'm doing in the interface in the UI to that farm. And so I can steal the power of that computer as I'm showing and moving the model and adding appearances and backgrounds. And I can also use that power when I go to render it out as an image. But we'll see that, you know, this guy, maybe I wanted to take this environment now that I brought it in. I have an environment tab here, and I just go in here and I just want to go ahead and rotate it a little bit just to get different light angles. And you can see the shadow changing as I go through and I rotate this. And maybe I want light coming from that direction, probably not. I think I want it more like that. So we got a shadow kind of coming here, and the light's kind of coming from this direction. These lights are coming directly from the scene, this guy right here, the environment that I brought in. So if I were to bring a different environment, I'd get a different lighting and shadows and everything like that. So, and we'll play with that here in a bit as well. But before we do that, I want to go in here and jump to Appearances and start coloring this, much like we did in Composer. So here, again, we have a local library and we have a world library. The local library is anything that we have downloaded. The world library is anything that's out there in the cloud. Once you use something from the world library, it saves it to your local library, and then you can use it over and over again in the future. So let me go ahead, and I like this metallic paint. even if something you're painting is like a metal or something like that, it's not actually a paint, you're just using the appearances from this. So if it looks right, it's good to go, regardless if it's a paint or a metal or some kind of coating or something like that. But let me go ahead and use, yeah, let's go. So there's metallic paint and there's also vivid metallic. Let me jump into here. This one's a little bit brighter. And let's go ahead and use like the aqua blue on the band, something like that. Maybe I'll preview so we can see that preview, that color, and if you're like, yeah, that's not quite what I was going for, maybe this chameleon. Yeah, something more like that. So it almost looks like an aluminum, like an anodized aluminum of some sort that, you know, has that kind of chameleon look to it. Now I want to color the face the same color, but this glass is in the way. I also want to change the appearance of that glass. It looks pretty almost cloudy, almost like it's frosted or something. So let's go ahead and change the what glass is being used. So I'm just going to back up, go to glass, and let's go to, just down here at the bottom, like a translucent, transparent. Let's try that guy. There we go. That way the glass is there, we can still see it through it much better than it was. But then, and that will actually look better after it's done rendering too. So now I want to go ahead and I want to hide the glass so I can select that color behind it and give that same chameleon color to the watch face. So right here we have clear glass, so I'm just going to go ahead and hide it, just like that. And then we'll go back to our file libraries, and let's go ahead and jump back into this guy and just drag and drop it there, something like that. Okay, so I'm going to now, I like this camera angle, but I want to zoom in and make some changes. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy and paste that camera, so then I can zoom in and make an adjustment without changing my camera angle. So I just want to see that 15. I want to make the 15 darker and around the 15 lighter. So again, we'll just go back to the appearances here, and let's use a dark appearance for the 15. And then I'm going to back up. Let's go to, yeah, something just white like that. We'll white the background of the 15. Actually, let's make it black, the 15 itself. And that will also change the numbers here, because the way I imported this into Visualize from SOLIDWORKS, there's two different ways of doing it. You can import it so it brings in the part, per part from SOLIDWORKS, or you can have it bring in per color. I brought it in per color, so every color that's consistent in SOLIDWORKS will actually be consistent in Visualize as well, which makes things like coloring multiple parts without coloring each and every one of these dots individually, because they're all the same color in SOLIDWORKS, so they're all going to be the same appearance here, so when I apply it, it colors them all at the same time. So something like that. And yeah, let's go ahead and go to our metal. And I just want to make this guy chrome. Something like that. And then this band, maybe we want that to be, I don't know, like a brushed stainless. So you see, there's just subtle changes, something like that. And actually this environment that I picked, I don't really like too much. It's not really bringing out my colors like I would like it to. Let's go ahead and go to, like, I don't know, let's try this guy. Yeah, there we go. That's a lot better with a much wider background. And then I can go to my scenes and I can say, you know what, let's go ahead and make those shadows on the floor a little bit more intense. There we go. That's too intense. Let's bring that back a little bit. And then I would like to rotate the scene just to get my shadows. And you can kind of see that in the reflection, so I'm looking for right here at the reflection. So now I like that a bit better. All right, and then that shadow intensity is a little bit much. Let's turn it back down to 1. Okay, and the last thing I want to show here before we push this out is in my camera, I have camera settings as well. So I can go down and I can say, I want the perspective. We're going to want this a little bit more dramatic. So we have perspective here, and I'm just going to drag that perspective, something like that, give a bit more dramatic look to it. Then I want to say depth of field. Hit this little, as soon as you hit depth of field, everything goes blurry because it doesn't know where to focus. So you just go ahead and hit this little eyeball right here, and I click on something like maybe the 20, and you're like, oh, that's good, but everything is still out of focus way too much. And so the aperture, we'll just close that down a little bit. The wider the aperture, the blurrier things get. So let's go ahead and make this maybe, let's say 1.75. I'm just keying it in. There you go, it's a bit better. Okay, so I'm happy with this now. I'm going to render this out. I'm just going to dump it in onto my desktop here, and I'm going to bring it into Composer and show how we can actually combine it with Composer features to output that really cool marketing content. So because my background isn't pure white, and I could render it out with Alpha Channel and bring that in and white out the background. That's not really the look I'm going for here. I kind of like the gray background. It's just I don't have a lot of dead space around the model. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom out. That way when I'm in Composer, I have a little bit more area around to put the stuff that I want. I zoomed out, I lost my depth of field, so I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to re-click back on it. It's like that to get that back. But I think it'll make a little bit more sense. You'll see that I have no areas to add stuff in Composer that I like. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and save this just so we don't lose it. And then I'm going to render it out. So let's get 1 second just to finish saving there. Okay, now let's go ahead and render it. So it's going to be Tools, Render, and sure, just on the desk. Actually, I have a folder here. Let's put it in our publications, and we will say that it is, yep, in this publication. It's going to be a JPEG, visualize done, that works. 1920 by 1080 at 300 DPI. That's not bad. And we could turn that up a little bit. I think for this purpose, it's because we want to kind of output it pretty quick. We'll just leave it at 300, and then 1,000 passes works. So I recommend at least 500 passes when you do an output. 1,000 looks pretty photorealistic. 2,000 is right in that ballpark of looking, you know, about as good as it gets. Anything above that will get better and better, but you're just kind of adding more passes without adding any more quality to the image. So it just takes more time and without any real gain from there. So I'm going to go ahead and send it to the renderer. And there we go. And so what it's doing, oh, let me start it. So what it's doing now is it's actually using my second computer to do this rendering. So it's not taking any power off my current computer. Even though I'm saving that image to this computer, it's not actually using the power of this computer. So it's pretty cool that I can offset that and delegate that to another machine. I just want to make sure that this calculates, and it should just take a couple minutes, and then we'll jump into Composer. 8 minutes. So yeah, okay, 3 minutes. That's better. Okay, so we got about 3 minutes to touch this guy up, and then we'll bring that image in. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use, let's use this one that we made some adjustments to. And so I'm going to use the model that I did in Composer to get little things off of it, two-dimensional things, vector images off this model. And I'm not actually going to use the model in the final output. I'm going to use the image that I'm pushing out from Visualize, because I want it to be photorealistic, but I want the technical aspects of Composer. So to do this, I will go in here and say something like this, where we go to our workshops, technical illustration, and then maybe I want like this detail here. So if I go to take this detail circle and I move it over the watch face, maybe something like that, kind of offset a little bit. And I'm going to say I want to capture this. I want to capture it with lines, shadows, and even the colored regions. And so by using the colored regions, we'll make a vectorized view of even those colored spots, which we don't have to do, but let's go ahead and show it. And so let's go to Smart Outlines. I like that. It makes it a little bit more intelligent. And then we just create that two-dimensional vector image, something like that. And now this image I can use overlaid over the top of the Visualize image. And let me go ahead and just remove this this attachment point here. And then maybe I want to, call out, just this component. I can do the same thing. So we're going to go ahead and preview that. I'm going to remove colored regions on here because it's kind of dark. And let's go ahead and create that now. And now we have this guy. And you'll see the lines are a bit thick. We're going to come over here. We're going to, in the properties, make those lines a bit thinner. And then remove that, the attachment, something like that. Okay, so now I'm going to switch over to what's called the digger tool. And so that guy is here. And I can use it as like a magnifying glass or a way to actually navigate through the model, which you can see here. It's actually doing like an X-ray. What I want to do is I want to go ahead and say that I want to focus on a specific component. And let's scale this back so we can go ahead and say that we want to X-ray through. You know, if this had parts in the middle, but the model's missing parts, so I probably wouldn't X-ray through this guy. I might just use it as like I don't know, let's use it as a full image, something like that. Just something I can capture and say this is the watch in more of a technical kind of manner. And we'll go ahead and capture that as a raster image. So this one's raster, this one's vector. That's why it captured that part as well of that circle. So I'm just going to go and double click and recapture. Let's move it here so it doesn't get in the way. There we go. And again, we'll just shrink it down so it fits. And then let's remove the tooltip. We can keep that attachment in there if we wanted, but I think for the purposes that we're doing it here, I don't think it's necessary. And I think I want one more just to complete it down at the bottom here. So let's call out, maybe there was a diamond, or you know what, maybe this detail right there. Maybe that's important. That's some kind of, you know, detail that we really want to specify. So let's go ahead and say that I want to use this as zoom like this. Maybe this was something important. And I just want to change that location just a little bit, something like that, and then capture it. And honestly, for some detail like this, I probably would use a vector image, not a raster, because it would look a little bit better. But I think just for an example here, so we have 2 raster and 2 vector going on, something like that. And then this is prepped to have the new image brought in. And we could leave the 3D model as well. Also, let's take a little peek at the rendering. So it's about 4 seconds left. So let me jump back to the PowerPoint real quick. So I want to show the very first page here where the watch here, this is oh, you know what, I have to actually not be in presentation mode. So this watch here, it has no background. And this is rendered out of Composer. So you can make these renderings like this where you can overlay different images. We can do that out of Visualize as well. And just makes a real nice image that we can use like on this website or in like brochures or something where you're overlaying over another image, and we can output like that. And so I could use that that function here as well to have the image I'm about to bring over from Visualize, but then also have my 3D model like in the corner. So instead of having this image, actually have the 3D model. So we'll play with that too. All right, that's completing, so it's just going to take about 3 or 4 seconds, and then we'll bring it in. All right, in the meantime, let me save this. And let's take a peek at that folder. There's our image. So that's the image that we just made in Visualize. It looks like I have it floating a little bit. I didn't catch that. There is a setting in there to snap the floor. You can also take the floor and bump it up, or you can take the model and kind of rotate it. So the problem is it probably it's probably touching the back and on the front. So I take the whole model, rotate it just a couple degrees so it touches. But yeah, so that would be the way that is done, and it looks pretty good. So I like the look of this. I'd probably go back and say that knob's a bit black and lighten it up a little bit, but other than that, it's good. I think it's good enough for now. And so let's go ahead and bring that into Composer. So I'm going to just say author, and this is the trick here. So we say image 2D, and I just snap a box, something like that. then I want to say, well, what is this? What's in this? So we'll map it to that image that we just saved, and we will just tell it to scale accordingly. And let's go ahead and make it a bit larger than we need. And it's a very high quality image, so we're not going to pixelate it by making it big like this. Okay. Now I want to send it to the back. So let's go ahead and put it in the background, something like that. And also I want to freeze it so I don't select it. And there we go. Now I don't have no need for this image anymore because I'm going to use the actual watch. So I'm going to take that guy, I'm going to hide it, and I'll keep it around just in case I need it later. It's still right here. You know, I can always turn it back on if I ever wanted to use it in a different page in this publication. But for this purpose, I'm just like, you know what, I don't really need it. So let's take the watch. We get that nice detail, kind of maybe a different angle, or, you know, it's a 3D model, so we can kind of like stick it down here, and so something like that. And I'm just curious here now if I were to do, see, I don't want to interfere with the image, but you know, you probably, if you did something like this, maybe something like that, because you want to show people where it's at, but at the same time, you don't want to like have a bunch of lines and stuff over your nice image. But I think one works, but something like that. Cool. Alrighty, so that's combining the two. So we got, you know what? I might as well do it to this one as well. Sorry, I did it to one, so I feel like I need to do it to the other. So we'll do that. There we go. Okay, so combining the power of visualize, and so that high quality photorealistic output into Composer, and then we have this technical stuff from Composer. Keep in mind too, in Composer, when we could add text, you know, I could add some text down here. I could, you know, throw some labels on, or you know, and make some call outs, and you know, have some like red line arrows, and then we also have like these circles. So we can, if we wanted to bring attention to like this 15, I could take a circle and I could leave this like red circle over the top or something like that. I like to keep it clean, you know, just maybe some raster or some vector imagery over the top of the image. Or we can create this imagery in Composer, save that out as vector art, save that out as raster art, save out our images from Visualize, and then compile everything together in Photoshop. I was trying to avoid using Photoshop for this case, but that would be another way to get the exact same output. And then Photoshop has some other tools that you can use as well, better text and things like that, if you're familiar with that route. If not, you don't absolutely need it. You can use Composer for a lot of these tasks like this. And then once you're happy with it, we just go here and we say we want to save it out. 1280, let's say 600 DPI, high quality. Make sure I have a single image. No alpha channel because I want the image in the background. I don't want a blank background. I like that image. And we will save it to, we'll call this Composer and visualize. And you'll say that I just saved that image. So that's what I'll say. It's a 1 second output. So once you have it in Composer, I mean, you just output it like that. Boom. There's no wait to actually create that rendering. We're in Visualize using the farm. Took about 3 minutes. Okay. So there is our marketing image. All right. Now let's jump back to the PowerPoint. And just wanted to leave you guys with just a couple other tidbits of what Visualize Professional can offer. So there is, let's just do this. So there is animation and that 360, which I talked about. I'll show a little example here, but also interior lighting. So if you're rendering a product, so say that you wanted to create a photorealistic rendering of like this watch, for example, that's sitting on a table with some HDR lighting around it. Visualize Standard will do that. Go that photorealistic image, no problem. Now, if you wanted to render the inside of a room, say you're designing an office space, you know, you want the lighting to come in from the windows and the lighting come from the ceiling and all that stuff, you need Visualize Pro in order to do that, to get that custom interior lighting and put it where you want to put it. It's kind of the difference between the two as far as that single image output. But let me jump into, just before we wrap it up here, let's show a video. This is one I just output last week. Basically, it's a Camaro and it's a 360 spin, so this is a video output from Visualize. So something like that. But then we can also do something like this. Sorry, open a different window there. But it is a 3D model. And so we get something like this where we can say, you know what, we got, it's a bunch of images that have been stitched together, but it gives us a 3D rotatable model. I'm rotating it right now, that we can put on our website. So we can take like this watch, take our product, push out this 360 VR model, put it on the website, and then anybody can come to your website and they can rotate it and look at it in photo quality. Okay, so that is it for our presentation today. My email is scottw@hawkridgesys.com. I do like to point you to my counterpart here, Blaine Watson. Here's his phone number and email. That's more. He's the sales technical manager for these products. And if you have any pricing questions or anything like that, feel free to reach out to him. If you have any like technical questions, you can reach out to him. He'll ping it back to me. But my direct email is scottw, SCOTTW, @hawkridgesys.com if you want to email me direct. So, okay, so let's go ahead and open it up for questions. Let me just take a peek to see if there's any currently. Oh, looks like there are. Let me go ahead and just read any of these questions here just to make sure I don't miss any. So the first one that we've shown with the more of the technical aspects of it, not photorealistic, that's Composer. And then the other one is SOLIDWORKS Visualize. And Visualize is the photorealistic rendering tool. Now, Visualize, if you have SOLIDWORKS Pro or Premium, you have Visualize Standard already that comes with it, but it doesn't come with Visualize Pro. So Visualize Pro is going to give you the additional lighting and VR and animation. The specs of my render machine, it's kind of a hybrid computer. We built it, so it's not something you can just buy off the shelf. It's kind of, we cannibalized a couple of the machines, but there are some really good rendering farms out there from like NVIDIA that would work a lot better than the one I have. The one I have has two grid cards, so it has two K2 grid cards, 64 gigs of DDR, I think DDR3 RAM, and it has a Xeon 3 gigahertz. I think it's a quad processor, Xeon. So it's a good machine. It's kind of pieced together. You can buy these machines that the hardware is actually made for each other, and it actually will work a lot better than what I have. But that's the specs of that machine. So you can see it's pretty powerful. If you're looking for a rendering station, or if you want to make your computer really a good computer for running a program like Visualize, Composer you don't have to worry about. It doesn't require the real high-end graphics cards to be productive. Where in Visualize, it runs off the NVIDIA CUDA core, and so that's, if you are looking at graphic card drivers to buy, just type that graphics card. Not drivers. If you're looking for graphics cards to buy, just type that graphics card into Google, followed by CUDA. And so it's like, if it's like GT4000 or something like that, just write CUDA after it, CUDA, and it will tell you the CUDA cores of that card. The higher the CUDA cores, the better the performance. My server has 6,000 CUDA cores. So, and then my computer right here has 125, the laptop that I'm using. So there's a big difference between the two. The more CUDA cores, the more faster your renderings are going to be, because Visualize utilizes both the GPU and the CPU of your computer, but mainly that GPU, your graphics card. So the better graphics card, the faster those rendering times. Okay, so yeah, let me go ahead and I'll leave this open for another 5 minutes. If there's any other questions, go ahead and type it in. I'll pop back in the next 5 minutes to answer them. If I don't hear back from anybody, have a great rest of your day, rest of your week, and enjoy the weekend. And yeah, see you next time. And thanks for attending today's webinar.